Good to have you back. We've already kicked around Prince Fielder a little bit. Jack says St. Louis should engage. Who else should be engaged with Prince Fielder?
Oh, first on that list has got to be the Cubs. I mean, it's a can't miss. I mean, Theo Epstein wants to make a big splash. He's not in a long-term rebuilding mode. He is there to turn the Cubs back into winners. And you know what? He's got money to back him up. He's got support from his owners to write that kind of check. I think Fielder right now is the perfect fit, the perfect match.
And I think about what you said. Maybe you weren't a player in the division up till a few days ago, but now, you know, with maybe Prince Fielder out of there, you take him away, and you've got Albert Pujols gone. Why not make a run right now?
Absolutely. I mean, if you not only are you taking Fielder away from the Brewers, so you eliminate them as a threat, or at least minimize them. We're talking about the Cardinal team that has lost Pujols. I mean, who's going to stop you? You put Fielder on the Cubs, and you're talking pretty much guaranteed you get into the playoffs, in my opinion.
Perfect scenario for Scott Boras, too, because he wanted Pujols off the board because now it gives him more information to bring to the teams that he's trying to get to sign his guy. Met with the Brewers at the meeting, but it didn't really seem like that is ever going anywhere. The Brewers aren't going to be in on this, but Bob says the Cubs, no-brainer for them. I agree, but I think it's a bigger no-brainer for the Cardinals. I think that after winning a World Series, now in St. Louis today, all anyone is talking about is not the World Series or when they're going to get their World Series ring or raise a banner. They're talking about they lost Tony La Russa, they lost Albert Pujols. What is going on with this team? You want to change that viewpoint. You want to change that storyline. You get Prince Fielder, you slide him in there, and then you start telling people, we got the guy who is 4 years younger than Pujols. He's going to be here for the next 8 years or so. We're going to win some more championships.
And I guess Albert's going to have his championship ring shipped to him at this point. All right, let's move on. Jimmy Rollins, we've talked about it all along, at least, Jack, during the winter meetings. And this was a no-brainer back to the Phillies. Does that still seem like a fit?
I still feel the same way about that. I think that when he started talking to the Phillies, he was asking for a 5-year deal. I think the Phillies would be content with giving him a 3-year deal, and maybe at some point these two sides come together with an option. So it's 3 years as an option. The Cardinals are out there as a possibility for Rollins, but I just don't see that happening. Although I said that over and over again about Pujols and the Cardinals, so who knows. But I do see this guy remaining in Philly.
I completely agree with Jack. I mean, the Cardinals may be in on Rollins, but I don't see it lasting very long. Ultimately, he's going back to Philadelphia, and I think there's a match on both sides.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on that one. In the meantime, a name we heard fleetingly at the winter meetings was Aramis Ramirez. A little hot and cold up and down, Jack. Where do you think he ultimately ends up?
All right, well, one of the places that he was first rumored was the Angels, which that's not going to happen now. They got a much better player in Pujols. Tigers are a team. They had Brandon Inge at third base last year, a total black hole there, so Ramirez would be a good fit for them. But one thing that is floating around from some Milwaukee reports right now is whether or not the Brewers get in on Ramirez. And that is intriguing to me because you wouldn't have to put out the big money that you would for Fielder. With Ramirez, you might get, I should say lengthwise, you still might have to pay this guy $15 million a year, but maybe you could get a 4- or 5-year deal, and you have somebody to hit behind Ryan Braun.
Yeah, I agree. The Tigers would have some interest, but you know what? The thing about Ramirez's splits, home and road splits, are they weighted heavily towards Wrigley Field. He's a much, much better player in the friendly confines than he is on the road. I don't know if he would translate well in Comerica Park. I think Jack is right. The Brewers are an interesting mix, but don't rule out the possibility of him going back to the Cubs. Who knows? There may be, at the end of this game of musical chairs, no other place for him to go. He knows he can perform well there at Wrigley Field. It's not an impossibility.
Now, do you think Ricketts, the owner, would sign off on both Ramirez and Prince Fielder?
I think that's a possibility. I think there's a shot there if he thinks he can win the division. Like I said, it's wide open. I would not rule it out.
Interesting to see the dollars because he opted out of a deal that paid him $16 million a year.
Right, and I think if Ricketts is able to get both of those guys, all of a sudden Theo Epstein is starting to walk that line again where people are saying he's a genius. You have to do something if you're the Cubs. I know Theo is a guy who preaches young players and building up the farm system, but Prince Fielder is a young player. He's 27 years old, so if you're the Cubs, you really have to look at this closely and figure out how much this guy could mean to your franchise.
All right, final name to kick around here, the veteran Carlos Beltran. What do you see his future being?
Well, he's going to wait. As a Boras client, he is going to wait as long as possible. He's not going to get the $20 million that he made last year. That's absolutely a given. He's probably looking for $15 million a year, 3 years. I don't know if he's going to get that. More likely, it's going to be $12 million a year. And you know what? I have a feeling he's going to end up in St. Louis.
St. Louis is a possibility because they came out and said before the Pujols thing crashed that they weren't going to go after Fielder if they didn't get Pujols. They were going to take that money and use it elsewhere. So we talked about Alan Craig before, coming back from knee surgery. Beltran could be a guy they slide in the outfield. I think the Red Sox should take a long look at Beltran. If they use Josh Reddick to get a pitcher in a deal, they'd have an opening in a corner outfielder spot, and Beltran could be that guy.
You know, one thing I'm a little surprised at, but not surprised at all, is that during the winter meetings, Bob, we didn't talk a lot about the name Scott Boras, but it sounds like we're going to over the coming weeks.
You know, he has really sort of shifted his tactics, you know, by and large. He now is an agent who likes to wait, lets the market set itself, and then he swoops in and preys on teams that are desperate right around spring training. So I would not be surprised if Beltran is not signed by the end of January, early February. He's going to go somewhere, and Jack is right. It may be the Red Sox. That sounds like a possibility as well. But his career is not over. He's got a lot of home runs still to hit.
And I think the one thing about Boras that maybe he does better than anybody in the business is patience. He will tell players, I'm going to find you that job, I'm going to find you that job. Even if it takes until late January, Boras doesn't mind waiting until the market comes back to him. And you're right, Bob, part of the reason we didn't hear about him as much at the meetings, too, is he usually walks in the first 24, maybe 48 hours. He does a session with reporters. This time it took until Wednesday night. The meetings were almost over before Scott Boras came down and did his session with the media.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Scott Boras is that he picks his clients very carefully. He tells them, I'm going to wait, and you're probably going to be very nervous waiting. If you can't handle it, then I can't represent you. We can't work together. You have to trust me. Sit back, take your phone off the hook, don't go on the Internet, go on vacation or something, and I'll get you a deal. But don't sweat it day by day because it's going to take a long time.